afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today for an exciting, human-centered conversation on some topics that are really meaningful to us. We're so eager to not only shed light on what it looks like to be an aspiring podcaster and a seasoned podcaster, but also we want to hear your curiosities and your perspectives. So I hope that the next hour feels very light and liberating and loving, because that's really all we're here for, right?
Exactly.
So I'm your host, M'Balou Camara. I'm a lover of flowers and pleasant scents and collective laughter. So please do laugh when things are funny. And I'm honored to be here with you all today. My dream is to launch a podcast by the end of this year. It'll be called Heart Reflex, and it is going to highlight the voices of artists and arts advocates of the African diaspora as they speak about how the art improves and connects their lives. I want to start off first by thanking the Maryland Citizens for the Arts team for creating this space, this platform for us to connect and engage freely in a conversation. I'm sure I don't speak for myself when I say that we're really grateful for this opportunity, especially at a time when the arts are becoming more challenging to uplift. But again, I'm so grateful to be from a state, Maryland, where we are not censored, so you will see that today. We are really grateful for the Maryland Citizens for the Arts team. We don't take this for granted, so thank you so much for having us here. I also want to thank UMBC. UMBC is my current employer, and it's also Rob's side employer. Rob has many hats.
Too many, some might say.
It's also my alma mater. I graduated from UMBC with my undergraduate degree 10 years ago, and this is professional development day for me. So any job that allows me to do what I love and still pay me is not a job to me. It's actually soil that allows me to grow. The last person I want to thank, or the collective that I would like to thank, is 627 Strategies, which is a public speaking coaching firm that was founded by a close friend named Rhonda Henderson, who could not be here today. Rhonda is a DC native, an educator, and a creative entrepreneur who I'm so grateful and blessed to know and to have learned from. So a moment of acknowledgement. We are tuning live today from PG County Community College in Largo, Maryland, which is situated on the unceded land of the Piscataway people. And while we as Black Americans, our ancestry points to the African continent, we do acknowledge that the land that we are gathered in this moment was previously homed and cherished by Native Americans. We are mindful of this, and we move about this space being mindful of that, and we'll continue to be mindful of that past, present, and future. And now for our guest today, Robert Lee Watkins. Yes, I said that in his full name. Junior, right?
Yeah, Junior.
Junior.
Esquire.
I will start and end with your full name. Rob is a Baltimore City, Charm City native, as well as the executive producer and host of The Truth in This Art.
Yes.
Since 2019, Rob has spotlighted over 800 conversations with individuals in the arts and creative space in Baltimore and beyond. And in 2022, his work was recognized as the best podcast in Baltimore by Baltimore Magazine editors.
Yes.
I realize I'm saying Baltimore a lot.
Yeah, you get. Oh, thank you. But you got to say it exactly like that, though.
I will keep doing my best.
Please do.
So Rob is also a passionate educator. He has instructed at the Baltimore School for the Arts.
Yes.
At the East Baltimore Historic Library.
Yes.
And currently teaches at UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, in the Community Leadership Program, which you will hear more about today. Rob is a veteran podcaster with nearly 20 years of experience in podcast production. Rob is a mentor, a collaborator, an instructor.
An Aquarius. No.
Oh.
Just put that in there. Just put it in there.
An Aquarius talking to a Scorpio.
Oh, gosh.
And Rob is a friend to me. Today he is in the guest seat, the hot seat.
Yes.
We're flipping the script.
Yes.
I hope you're ready.
I am not. It's very rare for me.
Please help me in welcoming Rob. All right, Rob Lee.
Yes.
How did we get here? I know that you took the MARC train today, and you typically don't take the MARC train, right?
No, I spend way too much money and take the Amtrak. I do the Acela move, right? Because I'm bougie that way. But you know, now with like no funding, right? Like I'm eating asparagus and popcorn. So I'm like taking like the MARC like a civilized individual.
Okay. Well, welcome to the MARC world. To offer everyone here an understanding of what actually brought us here today,
Yes.
here in this moment, let us reflect on the people, the experiences, and the moments that made it possible for us. So with that, I'd love you to talk about how the relationships and shared experiences and movements really influence the way that we think about support. I'll let you start us off.
Yes. So when I think of support, right? It's just starting off there. Oh, yeah, that's fine. My class. It's great. It's year one of the class that I taught at UMBC. I'm at year two, the Electric Boogaloo year. And I think in doing these interviews and these conversations, sort of the goal is it's not really about how can I get myself over, how can I show how good or whatever I am. It's more so like helping facilitate someone sharing their story. That's always been what's baked into this podcast that I do. And I want to say probably last year, maybe the year before, I was really curious about how can I take some of the skills that I have and maybe help other people share their stories and maybe be behind the mic. And instead of just being a guest of mine, you know, I've done so many interviews. I can't interview everyone. Several people are in this room that I've interviewed.
They're in here.
But being able to have the opportunity, there's a baller right there, have the opportunity to have sort of this next generation of podcasters sharing their own unique stories and their own interests, I felt like that was one of my ways of showing support and helping to develop a community of new media makers and sort of diverse media makers. So, you know, support, that's been in the conversation much more clearly in the last few years, especially even the way that I'm approaching the podcast this season. I've been asking those questions of folks. A lot of folks I'm interviewing again, so second interviews or third interviews, and asking questions of what does support look like outside of maybe monetary means, outside of sort of opportunities, but having a broader sense of what support can look like. So it's important.
It really is. And you spoke of one critical piece of what connected us and
Yes.
what brought us here. There are other experiences as well, right?
Yes, yeah, there are.
Let's co-story tell here.
Please.
Yeah, after community leadership class, where was the other experience that brought us together?
So there were a few instances that come to mind. Community-oriented events, like at Hopkins. I believe there was
It was what's called the Inheritance Baltimore Conference at Johns Hopkins University in November.
You put me onto that one. I had no idea, and I was like, oh, I can learn something. This is great, and just kind of being tapped in, because a lot of times you have a sense of what's right there in front of you, and you can miss things. So you sharing that with me was really, really cool, really paramount. And we kind of started building that, I think, a bit of, all right, what do you got going on? What's interesting? And kind of sharing that. Another thing that comes together, one of our fellow students in this class, Yesenia, who eventually was on the podcast, she had a community event in Creative Alliance in Highlandtown called Tea and Keatsley. You volunteered there. I showed up, and it was just a really cool cultural event. I'm like, oh, okay, everyone's together right now. We're getting together, and it was just really cool to see my students. You know, when I say my students, my kids. I'm not that old, but my students, and see them kind of do their work and share their story, and you be a part of it and helping with the volunteering. That was really cool. And then from there, you've sat in on a number of podcasts with me as well.
Eaton House.
Eaton House in DC. It's probably, 3 or 4 that you sat in on?
I think it was 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2, actually.
2?
2.
1.
It was 2.
Okay, just making sure.
It was 2.
The number's just going down. I was just wondering.
There's also been mentoring calls.
Yes.
I reached out to Rob for some mentorship support, and we do chat. It isn't a structured mentorship thing that we have going on, but anytime I reach out, Rob makes himself available. Yes. We've supported each other with grant writing and understanding the grant writing landscape, the funding landscape, correct?
All I know how to do is talk. I can't write, so I'm like, can you help me out with that? But definitely even, sharing some of the insights. There's a lot of stuff in this time that, in almost 20 years that I've learned that it's like, let's share it there. Learn from my mistakes, as I always say.
I want to say also one of the more recent things that brought us together was the public art panel.
Oh, yeah.
As part of UMBC's Center for Art Design and Visual Culture Center.
Yes.
Yes, you attended that.
I did. It was really great to kind of broaden my understanding of public art and its impact, and kind of sit there and revisit. It was in the same classroom that our class was in, so I was like, am I teaching today?
Yeah.
Had that vibe.
Really?
Yeah, I felt that way when I went in there.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. We didn't miss anything, did we?
I think we got it.
Well, what brought us here?
I think it was the sharing of information. Yet again, was thinking I've done a panel or session here a couple years back, and I was like, this is a really cool opportunity. It's a cool opportunity to connect. It's a great resource. It's a great opportunity to communicate with folks and meet folks. And I was just like, let me share this with you. Maybe one of us will get in and we'll see how it goes, and we're doing it together. So it works out.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. We're both getting paid, by the way. Splitting it evenly in the spirit of true collaboration. So we did not rehearse that co-storytelling. It hasn't even been a year yet since we first met, and there are many ways that we have been connected and have been collaborating with one another and have been supporting one another too. It feels very non-hierarchical, despite me having been taught podcasting essentials from Rob. So I just want to say I really do appreciate everything that brings us together, even if you stand by the Acela and I'm pro Mark.
You set tripping? What are we doing?
So Rob, I'd love to hear you. You kind of touched on this, but I'd love to hear you share more about how some of those experiences that brought us together, as well as others like them, shape your understanding of what words like access and resources and reciprocity really mean for you in your life.
Yeah. I think I could start off with reciprocity. That's a word that's hard for me to say. I think I don't really like the sort of what feels like a one-sided thing. Like, hey, I do a thing, I do an interview, I have this connection, I have this person. I don't believe in the gatekeeper stuff, but it shouldn't be one-way traffic. It should be like, how can we establish a relationship, a friendship, a kinship, what have you, and sharing of sort of those resources, maybe those connections, maybe sort of like tools, like I have my recording stuff or what have you here with us today, or sharing of knowledge. It's like I've learned a lot of different stuff, most of it self-taught, and I think the way that grows and opens up who can go into a specific field, let's say podcasting for sake of argument, I think having someone that is there willing to share and willing to connect, I'm always willing to, as you touched on, being able to have the conversation, being able to chat. And also, as we discussed, how can we be of service to each other? That's always important. So in anything that I do, especially in podcasting, I lead with that. Like, all right, this is a cool conversation. How can we continue it? How can I support whatever you have going on? Because obviously I'm interested in the person's work, I'm interested in, sort of their story, and it's like, how can we support each other? And this is actually an image at Eaton, DC. I think my sticker's somewhere over there. I'm gonna have to look at it. That's a Where's Waldo. I'm here. We're not sponsored, so that's why those bottles are turned away from the camera. But I'm here with Natasha Magino, who is the founder and editor-in-chief of Vibe magazine. I mean, not Vibe magazine, the Vibe Room magazine. And this was one of those instances where I wanted to circle back. I've supported the magazine, I supported the next issue that was coming out, and sort of the exchange was, we were just talking of ways that we can work together, whether I'm going to be writing. This was a podcast discussing some upcoming events and sort of the trajectory of the magazine and sort of the focus of the magazine, supporting artists of color in DC and the DMV more broadly, and just figuring out how we can support each other's goals in a like-minded fashion.
Mm-hmm. It's so nice to have this picture to look back at, and also to hear you speak so like naturally and eloquently about this experience, and then knowing that there's this recording that we can go back to hear about it really shows me that the Truth in This Art, the name of Rob's podcast, truly is a contemporary living archive for Baltimore City and beyond. Yeah. So I'd love to hear you say a bit about how your podcast really does live with and breathe with the city of Baltimore, and what drew you to this work of being an archivist, a podcaster in the first place.
That's a word I'm still getting comfortable with. I be talking on microphone sometimes, but I think capturing these stories, I think it's important. I think a lot of times when we see it now with some of our history right in front of us being kind of erased, omitted, changed, burned, I guess, mm-hmm. and being able to capture the stories unfiltered directly from the people living these experiences, that was the driver, and that continues to be the driver. I've said it before in the pod that this came out of just very pettily. I'm a petty person sometimes, but it came out of just someone talking really ill about Baltimore, and that person might be in office again. And I wanted to disprove that, and I wanted to have people come on and speak for themselves. So that's what that drive is. And so when I do the sort of beyond portion of it, going to other cities and going to other communities, that's still the driver behind it. Mm-hmm. Like, come on, share your stories. Like, I have some questions. It's a framework to help facilitate someone sharing their story. And I've been saying a lot recently of I like to just let the guest cook. It's like I might insert like, hey, let's move in this direction a little bit, but mostly it's improv to have that true conversation. And in thinking about it, I've had several outlets reach out to me, hey, put it behind a paywall and do this and do that. Mm-hmm. And I think it keeps people away from hearing those stories. And mm-hmm. it just feels like awkward to, hey, here's a real story someone's sharing and they're spending the time and they're doing this. Let me put it behind a paywall though. It's just like, it feels weird to me, and it's rather have it out there, no commercials, no ads, and just people sharing their story authentically. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people might not know this, but you are also a data analyst.
I am.
Yes. And you are super into films and filmmaking. Is that correct?
This is true.
Okay, so I feel like this speaks to how podcasting comes very naturally to you, right?
Yes.
I'd love to hear you share a bit about how you view podcasting as both an art and a research endeavor, how you kind of blend creativity and curiosity in your storytelling process.
Okay, yeah. So first off, I asked too many questions. That's the thing. I've been trying to get my questions down. Like, they say a podcast would be like 38 minutes. I'm like doing hour-long sessions now. I ask too many questions. But I'm curious. I'm curious about the thinking that goes into someone's work, not purely what was the brushstroke here, what was the, but it's more so what was the thinking. Mm-hmm. And what are those experiences that go into the thinking that ultimately ends up on that canvas, ultimately ends up in that movie or what have you. That's a big piece of it. I think the data analyst side of it and the sort of podcasting side of things, I've been doing both for almost the same amount of time. And it was at one point, back during my early my early period of working at Johns Hopkins, I applied for a job that required a podcasting background and a data analyst background. I was like, yo, I got this.
Oh, wow. It was for you.
It was literally for me, right? And here's the thing. I had a hair at the time, right? And I was living a wild life. I had like earrings. I was telling you about this a second ago. I had earrings, I had hair at the time.
You said a mullet?
Yeah, not for the audience.
Oh.
But I was out here, and I remember applying for the job, getting the interview, and I just remember I shaved everything off, got rid of the earring. Just let me be conservative, Rob. I showed up for the interview, got past the first round, ultimately got to the second one, did get the job. And I was just like, no, you got to stay true to yourself, and you have this sort of balance of this side, find ways that they work together, and it's kind of two minds. It's like I have a creative approach and an artistic approach with how I do my podcast and how I go about it, from the editing process to some of the artwork, the thinking that goes into it. I don't at any point say, hey, I'm an artist and I'm on the same level as a visual artist or someone that's like has really strong and high level like artistic merit. But also I have the sort of storytelling background, and that is reinforced with the data background. So when I'm able to have some of those conversations on put together an application, it's just like, not good at the writing portion of it, but the narrative portion, the storytelling portion of it, I can show the data that reinforces the actual, anecdotal like storytelling component. And that just comes from being able to live in both worlds at the same time. A la Blade, if any of y'all seen that movie. Daywalker, yeah.
Yeah, Super Blade. Is that one of your nicknames?
No, Wave Daddy is one of them.
Wave Daddy.
There's a video out there with me with a jersey that says that.
Okay, Wave Daddy. So there's a lot more that goes into the podcast experience than like the final recording that we hear, right?
Yes.
Relationships.
Yes.
Could you walk us through what happens, what unfolds before and after, and all the spaces in between that really do help capture what this podcasting experience is about?
Yeah, and I think this picture right here is a good example. So this artist is a Russian artist, a figurative painter named Xenia Gray, based in DC. And she was a referral from one of my friends also based in DC, and she wanted to talk for like an hour and a half months before we did the interview, before she agreed to it, because I think English is her third language. And she was like, I've done art talks and they just leave me up there and just ask me about brushstrokes. And we were just talking, just having a conversation like just regular people. And I was able to get so much out of the conversation that helped me write better questions, more informed questions for the actual interview later. And that's something that's somewhat rare, but because it wasn't a lot out there about her. So, she's laughing a lot in the conversation, and because I realized that, oh, you were a comedian and an actress before you even got into painting. And that's what she talked about most in our like hour and a half conversation. She really didn't talk about painting. She talked about that. She talked about being in this this sort of silence retreat. So I was like, these are interesting things that are not necessarily about current work or upcoming work that perhaps play a role in that work. And I got that from actually changing up that process a little bit and not just going by what's online or what's in a bio and trying to extract and pull questions from it, but actually having a pre-interview. And obviously it's a time component. It's an hour and a half, and then we're doing an interview for an hour, and then we're maybe grabbing a coffee or something afterwards. So you start building out that time. And the way that I think sometimes like podcasting and certain like media is now, it's about speed, and that is a slower process. It's taking its time, and that's one of the things that I've tried to spend more time doing, taking that time. So you were there for a few of these, but making it a point, this is again in Eaton, to go down and meet people in person, to do things IRL versus everything is purely digital and I'm a ghost otherwise. I think switching that process up a bit and trying to be more oriented around person-to-person conversations, I think it leads for a richer conversation. And I even see it in sort of the output and how I feel after the fact. And, you know, I think even after this, it's like, hey, there's an invite to, I think to a show, and I showed up for it. It's rare that I go out and shop for things. I like living in that specter life, but you know, because of that person-to-person connection, there's some roots that are built there, and that's what I've been trying to do more of. Yeah.
Showing up.
Yes.
Showing up, yes. Use the term IRL so that we're accessible to everyone. That means in real life.
You think of me, no. Yeah. No, you're right, it is in real life, yes.
So you've touched on this a bit, but over the past year that I've known you, less than a year actually, you've opened my eyes up and my mind to the textured experience of being a local podcaster. And so I understand that we live in a society where sometimes marketing or connecting, networking with people in this role, it is not always easy.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear you share about some of the unique challenges that you've been navigating as a podcaster rooted in Baltimore, and what are some ways that you've overcome that?
Yeah, I think like the podcasting and the media scene in Baltimore isn't the biggest. It's one that's developing. It's one that it's limited space, I guess. And there's always the call from each of the radio stations over the time that I've been doing this have made the call to me, hey, you want to come and bring your content, your full catalog and the rights to everything that you do over and be one of us, you know, assimilate and all of that. And I like being independent. And I think the sort of component of that independence is I've had conversations with funders, because that's always a consideration, who've told me like, oh, you shouldn't interview these people. We want you to interview these people instead. And I was just like, nah, I'd rather not. Or there may have been panel discussions where, oh, can you leave all of the Trump stuff about your story and maybe say this is why you got started? So changing fundamentally the whole ethos of why I do what I do feels weird. And one of the ways I get around it, because it can be frustrating, it can be super annoying, despite my efforts or what have you, is to maybe change how I'm viewing things and change how what I'm seeking. So the teaching opportunities, those were things that certain people who want to manage me told me not to do. And it's like, that's not going to 10x your business, bro. These are literally conversations I've had. And
did they really say bro?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Just a 5'8" white dude, just, I don't know what to tell you, bro. And I was just like, using the data analyst background, I was like, you don't even know what my stats are. How can you tell what's successful for me from a number standpoint, but even from a personal standpoint? You're not even asking the question. Or what I do represents a thing, I suppose. So I started pursuing things that I thought were more aligned with what I value. I value continued education, so learning, sharing, and connecting with people. So that's teaching. That's just right there for me. But some of the other things, it's trying to bring those resources back. I was earlier this year. I was in the On Air Fest in Brooklyn, New York, and was able to go up there. Had to figure out money to go to Brooklyn for a 3-day convention, with no funder, nothing. And New York's not cheap per se. And some of these podcast events, tickets are like $700 to just show up and be in the room with a podcaster. And
US dollars?
US dollars, yeah. And then there's the, hey, Deezus or Miro is going to have their own special podcast, which is an additional $150 if you want to attend that. So it's a cash grab in some of these instances. And I kind of knew it, but I knew I needed to be up there at least to have that experience, to be around other podcasters in different markets. And the sort of IRL, in real life, component of it, I was able to see Tanya Mosley, who I'd interviewed at the end of last season, and she agreed to give me some mentoring advice. We had a coffee and a nice chat, but it was because we were in the same space. She was coming from California for On Air Fest, and I was taking the Amtrak up. I couldn't afford to sell it. It was real tight then. But taking that up and being able to have this conversation that the value of the conversation would not have worked via Zoom or phone. It's like we were sitting there person to person, just shooting the breeze, but really connecting things in a way. And she almost convinced me to move to LA. That's how deep the conversation got. Yeah.
LA?
I'm not moving to LA,
Okay.
especially not now.
Right.
But yeah, not moving to LA.
We love LA.
We do. It's super hot there.
Yeah, happy you stayed. So I'm sure maybe even your interaction with Tanya Mosley inspired you in some ways. You know, mentors are huge sources of inspiration. I'd love to hear you share about one or two defining moments of inspiration for you in your life. Maybe they happened conversing with one of your guests on your podcast. So could you tell us what it felt like, what it sounded like, what it smelt like? Just like describe it for us. I'm a lover of pleasant scents. And how did that moment of inspiration meet you where you were in your life, and where did it take you? Like, where did it lead you? Trying to really get a sense of what inspiration looks like. How do we measure that, you know?
Yeah. It's funny, I've been working on a question around like inspiration and aspiration. But two things that come to mind. I'll start with the smell, the first one. It was bergamot. I was in my studio with a candle lit, as I'm one to do. And I actually reached out, was doing some research, but using the data analyst, from like downloads, and like, where am I getting downloads that are outside of Baltimore? And it's a lot that was coming out of Texas for some reason. I didn't know why. I was like, I haven't interviewed anybody in Texas. And I was like, I want to see what other places are to see if I can actually do this, or am I just purely gonna be here? And I ended up reaching out to a bunch of different people who I thought fit what I do, that were in Austin, Texas specifically. And there's a big podcast market down there now. But I reached out to a few people and connected through a few people here at Baker, Arts, and made some contacts. I was able to meet a few people. One of those people that came to mind was Raisin McIntosh, who works in public art, and she's an Olympic hurdler. That is what her background is. And we got on the phone, which again, in the IRL email sort of world, getting on the phone is different. Got on the phone, and she was like, we have discretionary funding, so we can pay for you to come down here if you want to do these interviews. So I came down to Austin, Texas. It was an average of 106 degrees each day I was down there. I was sweating out my ethnicity. It was just like, the blackness.
Oh, no.
So I go down there, and I interview her and 7 other people in different areas of art. There was one person who was a writer who's since moved up here now, Jay Fabello. There was a video game designer who did all of the marketing for one of these big taco chains down there. And we barely had a conversation. He made me as a character in his video game.
I thought you were gonna say he made you a taco.
Well, we had tacos too.
Okay, that's
Tacos
good.
are important. But he made me into a character in his video game.
Oh my God.
Which I was just like, 8-bit Rob, this is amazing. And several other people. And I think in it, the sort of conversation and the sort of desire to leave from here, go to a place I've never been, and interview people. I usually don't know the folks I'm interviewing anyway very well, but I'm interested and curious, but something very different. It gave me sort of this pull that I was like, I can do this in other places. These sort of conversations matter. And the Raisin McIntosh person I referenced earlier, without really putting out that pitch of, hey, I need this for this reason, she was like, no, you're a light worker. We go find you. Come on down. It was pretty easy. And it felt good that someone saw what I was doing and saw the value in it. And they weren't like a neighbor, if you will. And another instance that comes to mind is LaFontaine Oliver, who used to be head of the board for WYPR, who now runs New York WNYC, so the biggest job in the public radio industry. And I got connected to him through a PR firm. I didn't even know who dude was. I was just like unaware. It's like, it's a really big important guy in this industry. You got him for an interview, you don't know who he is. What are you doing? And had a conversation with him. He has some Morgan ties, I'm a Morgan alum. Somehow I missed him, when I was there. And we had a really good conversation. One of the few that I was very, very, very nervous about because of the sort of, you're in this spot. We had the conversation, and after we kind of got to the closing part and we wrapped it, he was like, yeah, any interest in broadcasting? And that was just that acknowledgement of like, someone that's in this level of the industry is giving you sort of your, what do the old folks say, the proppers? Giving you your proppers.
The proppers.
Instead of props, I've heard people say your proppers.
Proppers.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to use that.
Don't bring that back, please.
Oh, okay. There were a couple of pictures
Yes.
that we forgot to show because I was so absorbed in your storytelling.
I talk a lot. Yeah, this is from Big Improv.
Let's go back.
Yeah, it's from Big. Well, I still had the Yves Saint Laurent glasses on. Yeah.
No mullet, thank God.
Yeah, I was balding at that point. This was from the Creative Mornings talk. Sean Champion did this in Mount Vernon, I believe.
Awesome. Okay.
I was on a billboard at one point in Station North.
Point.
Yeah.
Casual.
That was the it was the first year of New Next film festival, and I'd interviewed two of the filmmakers who did this movie about the carpet industry in Georgia. It's called Carpet Cowboys, and they saw me for the interview, and then they see the billboard when they're there further. It's just like, so do you run Baltimore? I was like, no, I do not. It's like, you're on a billboard, so what are you doing?
Do you run Baltimore?
I don't. And I think I didn't do it on purpose, but I had a cowboy hat on that day for some reason. I was literally dressed like the character from their film, so they thought I was in cowboy corps.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. You should wear the cowboy hat more often.
I will take that into account. I will probably do that. Yeah.
So I'm going to repeat this one more time for the people in the back that may have not heard the first time.
Sure.
More than 800 recorded conversations. I think earlier today I heard you say 890?
Yeah, 890.
Since 2019.
Yes.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that, like mathematically. So if we were to quantify that in terms of talking hours over the past 6 years, that means that you've been in conversation longer than you've been sleeping. So do you like talking and listening to people more than you like sleeping and dreaming?
Yes. One could
Yes?
say I'm living my dream, so
Okay.
yeah. So,
Okay.
I made it sound pleasant, didn't I?
Okay. On a serious note,
Yeah.
I am curious to know what you hope your listeners walk away with when they tune into The Truth in This Art. How do you see your podcast as contributing to social change or just community impact?
I just hope it opens up the aperture a bit, that folks kind of extend what the idea of like art is, who's an artist, whose work matters, whose story matters. That's sort of the main thing, and it's been there, and I hope to, with sort of the overall contribution, I suppose, to just add to the conversation, to be a part of it, to be, you know, maybe a chapter in a really, really, really long book for some of these folks who have come on the pod. Yeah.
An 80 conversation long book.
Yeah, a very, very long
80,
one.
800.
Coming up on 9. Yeah.
Very long. So looking ahead, what would meaningful support look like for you? We've talked a bit about support through, you know, the ways that you've engaged with others, the ways that I've engaged with you, what brought us here. So if you could imagine an ideal support kit,
Yeah.
what would be included in that?
Lots of coffee. No. Just, you know, being engaged with the content for the most part. I always say this in the pod, it's money is too easy. We all need funding. That's sort of a common thing, right? But sort of being engaged with the content, listening, you know, having some thoughts, having some, sharing it with folks. That's sort of the main thing. That's how it gets it out there. And I think, as Chaotic Couture said on a most recent interview that went out, it's just like having your name out there in these different rooms is important. Yeah. So that's what support looks like. It's a very low lift, but I think that's what matters to me. Yeah.
I feel like that's what's happening. That's what you're receiving.
Yeah, I think so.
So now I'd love to open it up to the audience to share any questions or reflections that you might have. I think we have some time for, we have time for like maybe 3 or 4. So feel free to jump in if you have something on your mind. Yes.
So my name is Tiffany Carpentier, and I want to start a podcast on the creative healing connection. And I didn't know if you had any any advice for somebody who's just getting started into podcasting? It's a new world for me. I've done everything live. I've spoken on stages, but the whole, how do you attract your audience? How do you get ready for that first,
Yeah, I think a few things that I kind of touch on is, what does 10 episodes look like? What does 15 look like? Having sort of a number. A lot of times we have really good ideas. I've done some myself. And it's like, yeah, I can really do this every week. I couldn't keep up with it. So having something that I think if getting started you can commit to, and then sort of the audience gets built up through that consistency and, sort of that relevance and reaching out to the right people. I think that helps, but I think being able to be consistent and have an opinion and sort of work that you want to make continually. I was having this conversation earlier today about, some of the students that I've had before they even have recorded or even come up with a title. How do I monetize this? Bro, you don't have a podcast yet. So building from there, I think, is where I would probably start. And here's the first 5 episodes. Here's the first 10 episodes, whatever that cadence might be, to get an idea of what that rhythm looks like for you, and then just fine tune and build from there. And folks will come, folks will listen.
Okay. I was thinking about recording 52, for the weeks.
Yeah.
And then curating them, so it kind of like builds and then launching. But do you think you can do it smaller sets, like 10 episodes?
I would probably look at smaller sets.
Okay.
Yeah. But 52 is a good number. It's weekly. I like volume.
It's a lot of conversations. Rob has had 332 conversations in 1 year. That's like at least in 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah. First year.
Some might say too many.
Any other questions? Yes.
How you booking your guests? Who you booking?
I do the booking myself. I sometimes get referrals. It's pretty rare, but just being aware. So if I'm in Station North and I see that giant LED board in Baltimore, I'm like, that person's work is cool. I'm gonna reach out to them. It's as simple as that. Or even if I go to an art fair or something and someone's work speaks to me, and I'm just like, let me reach out and see if they're interested. I was in Spring Break Art Fair in May, and actually have an interview on Friday with an artist who I saw his work there, and I was like, this is interesting. You're a provocateur. Let's chop it up. And he was like, yeah, let's make it happen. And it's as simple as that sometimes.
People want an opportunity to share their story. Yeah. Yes, I'll go with you.
My name's Jordan. I love your podcast. I
Thank you.
listen to it. So,
Appreciate you.
My question is, how do you ever quantify maybe a loss that you've taken in the podcast game, what you think that you didn't do your best or something like that when you're interviewing people? I know it's them telling their story, but from your end, maybe it's, I don't know, your everyday operations that you quantify that you can improve on. I'm just curious in your, in your field.
It's all losses. No, never lost. Yeah, I think about that on occasion when I get an insight from someone, especially in sort of publishing or in public radio. One person that comes to mind was Harag Vartanian, who he's editor-in-chief of Hyperallergic magazine. And he was like, you should probably do less. He was just giving me just advice. He's like, you should probably do less, spend more time in some of the research. And it wasn't a criticism as much as just maybe change how you're going about your work. He's like, curiosity and energy and sort of your bandwidth is driving a lot of it, but you're going to burn yourself out. And so I start thinking of things in that way. Also, let's just take it to monetary, right? A lot of times it's just you're not getting that big funder. You're not getting that big, I don't have any ads. I don't use ads. And so it's just different things that you can miss. So it's always at the end of the year, a lot of all right, let me cross this out. Let me cross this line sheet out. And really thinking about, and even this year, I wanted to do 100 episodes this year. That was just sort of the number I had in mind. And generally I do a lot more. And just due to certain circumstances, it's I got to do less. I want to do probably 75.
Okay.
And just making those concessions and being aware and checking in.
Nice.
Sure.
Yes.
My name is Rose. I'm an artist. I'm curious how you are thinking about the future of podcasting. I feel like it's having a moment where I love podcasts, and they're kind of moving a lot more towards YouTube, where there's like a video aspect of podcasting. I'm just curious how you're kind of approaching the evolution of podcasts and where they are now and where you're looking ahead, if you're evolving and changing anything or anything like that.
Yeah, question, thank you for the question. It's a question that comes up all the time. I think, from looking at it and observing it, a lot of folks are doing video. It has the impression that a lot of folks are doing videos, less than 20%. That's the number that's floated out there. And it's a higher cost, it's more of a production. And this is literally, I think our topic from last week in my class of, are you doing a podcast or something that's meant as radio, or are you doing a production? If you're doing a production, then let's turn that episode into $7,000 to $8,000 per episode versus something that's probably easier to do. So that's a consideration that's there. I've thought of doing sort of the video portion. I've done a few of the video episodes and then having the audio accompaniment with it as well. And that's gone well. I've done some at just different landmarks in Baltimore, but the number's almost identical. So it's something that I'm looking at, but I think the rollout, the layout, the volume would be a lot different. But it is something I think is in the near future that I want to spend more time doing. I want to do more of the video ones and maybe shift the sort of format a bit, because I think there's a lot to be gained there.
Mm-hmm. Maybe more in person, like in this format too.
Yeah.
Right. This is super intermediate, by the way. Like a lot of things had to be clipped and plugged in. A lot of things are moving right now, but we made it work. We're making it work.
Yeah. And that's what podcasting is about, really.
Right.
Making it work.
Right. Any more questions from folks in the audience?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you publish every interview you do, or does it ever, have you had a moment when maybe it didn't go quite the way you expected? What's the obligation to then publish?
That's a good question. I think it's probably a handful, maybe 10 that I just didn't put out there or didn't upload. It was one recently from the ED of a really, really big nonprofit in Baltimore. And she remembered the conversation. She was like, can you take that interview down that we did a couple of years ago? She was like, I'm using a few too many four-letter words in it. And I was like, yeah, sure. But I try to make it a point to, the main consideration is the guest comfortable with what they said and how they said it. And there have been some times where I've done interviews again, just to make the guests feel less comfortable in sharing their story. Because that's at the forefront for me. A lot of times, this podcast is like the first time someone's been recorded talking about their work or talking about their story. So I want to do it justice. And if they're not comfortable with it, or if I'm like, this didn't work, I was terrible in it, which happens, it happens a lot, I'll take it down, but I try to be as close to what that conversation was and the merit of that conversation.
Has the experience having so many insightful conversations transformed your own relationship with curiosity and the art of listening that transfers into your own life as well?
That's a really good question. Yes. I joke about this a lot in the pod, that I'm only having these conversations with people to make myself sound more interesting, because I am boring. So I will reference other people, like I have firsthand quotes from them. But I think in those conversations, I'm gleaning a lot. I'm learning a lot, some of their influences from the guests, books they've read, who they look up to, who they're inspired by. And it pops up, and questions that I'm writing, sort of insights that I'm trying to pull from folks. So yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I love that question. Thank you for that. Yeah, the art of listening. And there's also an art of conversation, I feel, that you spoke of in the Podcasting Essentials course. Could you tell us a bit about how conversations often feel like an art? Like there's an art to navigating that aspect of the human experience? Yeah,
I'll reference the Xenia Gray interview again. I go through, I have between 6 and 10 questions that I really want to ask, and I have like rapid fire questions that I ask as well, which some folks like them. And in it, we're talking through it, and I have all of these really like wordy, insightful questions about theory and color and all of that stuff in her work. And at a point, I was like, I asked this didn't really go, or maybe she answered 2 questions in that one response. So I'm improvising as I go along and tweaking as I go along. I'm almost editing while I'm going about it. One of the things that I think I stressed in the class, and I stress in the class currently, is editing on the fly. It's just like, it saves you, sort of that post-production editing, which I think the more you're touching something after you've recorded it, you're moving further away from what the conversation was. You're trying to polish it a little too much. And one of the things that just felt really cool to hear from Xenia is that, thank you for the conversation. You make me feel like a human. Which she was like, I've done all these art talks and they're just asking me about all these different things, and it was very scripted, and the person didn't have a follow-up, or the person didn't have anything past. So this work here was about this and that. It's just like, that way of being able to tweak on the fly and improvise on the fly. I think you're able to keep a conversation going in that way, and that's one of the things that, due to the probably 1,000+ hours, you mentioned I got more recording hours than sleeping hours that I've learned.
Wow, I feel like there is something to giving artists a chance to speak, like to use their voice, because not all artists are voice artists. Some are visual, some are choreographers, and giving artists a chance to speak, use their voice, even if English is their third language, still like shows so much more of who they are as a human. I can see that, how she was grateful for that.
Yeah, it's one thing I've heard from a few different people. It's one artist that I had on, Ariana Viviana, who was a re-interview. I had interviewed her a couple years ago when I was going up to Philly every week. And she mentioned in the conversation, and she followed up from the initial time when we spoke back in September of 2023, that she was in a bad space when we did the initial interview mentally. She was just like, I don't think I'm gonna be long for this world. And she shared that in the conversation. And she was like, that was the beginning of her art story. And she went out of her way to share it in this most recent interview. And she was like, I'm so much more comfortable in talking about my work and talking about my mental health at that standpoint. And I was almost like ill-equipped, because that wasn't a question or anything that I was expecting. And we were able to navigate through that and not be thrown off in the conversation, because it was honesty, it was truth in that conversation. And when we were closing up, she was just like, when she shares the podcast with folks, she was like, yeah, I'm talking with the homie. I'm referred to as the homie. And it's like, we've had 3 conversations in the span of 3 years. So cool, I guess that's a connection there.
Wow, so homie is your 16th nickname?
It's up there, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wu-Tang member, it's great.
Okay, so Rob, before we let you go, I heard you mention your rapid fire questions, right? That you offer every guest at the end of your episode.
I do.
So we have what's called the reflex round.
Got the stretch?
I feel like here I should have put that, that emoji, is it brown? No, it's a purple emoji with like these devil ears.
Okay, yeah, I like it.
The sneaky emoji, I should have put that here.
Matches the suit.
Oh, you're right. You're right. So for the next 2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes is all you have.
Here.
I will give you a series of deep questions that you must answer in no longer than 1 sentence. I know this is going to be very difficult.
I'm here for it.
And remember, it's a reflex round, so that means that we want to hear what comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay? Deep thoughts, quick answers. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. If your life at this stage was a movie genre, what would it be?
Rom-com.
What does it mean for you to truly be free?
Being open, receiving.
Okay. What question has the world been asking you at this stage in your life?
What's next?
What's the hardest thing about truth-telling?
Sometimes you're not appreciated for it.
What are you most afraid of?
Escalators. Y'all laughing. This is true.
I'm with you.
So you get it.
What was your childhood dream job?
Astronaut roboticist.
Okay.
This is true.
I believe you. I mean, truth in this art. You gotta speak truth.
This is true.
What are you most curious about?
It's gonna sound gauche. People. Seriously, people.
Like humans?
No, like make-believe people. Like
Oh,
the
okay.
ones that
There will be a Q&A portion. What was that?
That's the owl. The one from outside.
Where is that?
Oh, that one.
This is an owl?
Yes.
So that's what it's called.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, look at the front of it. Thank you for listening to The Truth in This Art. This podcast is executive produced by Rob Lee and hosted by Rob Lee. This podcast is produced by Daniel Alexis. Original music provided by Daniel Alexis. Additional music provided by Chipzard and Tay Trey Sace. This podcast is edited by Daniel Alexis, and show notes are provided by Rob Lee and Transistor Media. This podcast is a podcast under Contrarian Aquarian Media Productions. Photos provided by Vicente Martin and guest photos provided by the guest unless otherwise noted and credited. Lastly, this podcast is supported in part by Fractured Atlas. If you want to support this podcast, head on over in the show notes to fracturedatlas.org. Be sure to follow The Truth in This Art wherever you get your podcasts and on social at Blue Sky, Instagram, and hit up our shop on Redbubble. There are some t-shirts on there from The Truth in This Art. So that's that. Thanks again for listening.